Hello, and welcome to another episode of That Inner Voice Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer McKenzie, the conscious living coach, owner of Lunar Spirit Wellbeing. How is everyone doing today? I'm excited for my guest and this conversation. Let me introduce to you Antonio de Sousa. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good. How about
Good.
yourself?
And
Yeah,
we have spoken before on something that I used to do called Real Talk with Jen, was a live on YouTube, wasn't it? We
yeah.
spoke a little while back. So this is kind of like round two, but so I'm interested to hear, what's changed for you since the last time. So if you are watching on YouTube, do not forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. You never know who you're going to help by a click of a button. So let's get down to business. Would you like to tell the viewers and listeners, who you are and what you do and why are you here? Why are you here on this podcast? What do you want to share?
uh, well, where do I start? So I'm a self-belief, self-joy facilitator, and I specialize in a kind of spiritual frequency. Um, I specialize as well in self-love, self-care, self-mastery. I'm a coach, mentor, public speaker. And I wrote a book, an amazing book. You've got to check it out. It's over in Amazon, titled The Lockdown on Self-Love. And yeah, that's a project that I've just recently published. I published a few weeks ago. It's going amazing. I'm on a real journey. And yeah, it was a project that started previous to the first lockdown in late 2019. It's been a really challenging project. Really, it's taken a great deal of surrender, allowing myself to be vulnerable, allowing myself to be transparent, allowing myself to give a voice to sensitive subjects, which men otherwise don't speak about. Men don't really want to open up. They don't really want to, bring attention to themselves. And I think that's something we can all relate with, really, not wanting to bring attention to ourselves in fear of ridicule, in fear what other people are going to think of us, When, look, all of this just literally came about me going through a romantic heartbreak. And I was starting to question life, that I want to live anymore. Do I want to remain on this planet? I was feeling really suicidal, dealing with loads of depression and this and the other. I had no one to turn to. I had no one to speak to. Like it just felt like I was going through conflict with anyone I spoke to. I was certainly in conflict with myself. Um, One thing led to another, and I was drawn to have a heart-to-heart with myself. And from that, it just turned into a whole psychoanalysis, really, self-inquiring, and if I started to reverse engineer my life because I wanted to understand why I was the way I was. I wanted to understand, who am I? Why was I a certain way? And so I started to become fascinated about how my emotions worked, how my mind worked. And it's been a healing journey ever since, really.
Yeah, the healing journey, the self-discovery and the journey of self-awareness is an interesting one, isn't it?
Yes, it
Like,
is.
yeah, I think it's a brave thing to do.
It certainly has been. Yeah.
Many
Yeah.
people go through life, unconsciously not even understanding their own mind, their bodies, why they do things, what brings them joy. They just
Mm.
go through life as a robot, like working your 9 to 5, being
Yeah.
mundane and but if they're happy like that. But that wasn't the case for me. And I know that's a lot the case for a lot of the people that I work with. It's like they have some sort of an awakening and then they're like, what's happening to me, what's happening around me,
Mm.
and want to make those changes in their life.
Mm.
So what was like the driving force then? That you said you went through a romantic breakup, but what was the driving force behind you wanting to make a better life for yourself and becoming a coach and a mentor?
Where do I start? Do you want the short version or the long story?
Well, we've got about half an hour. So.
Well, all right, I'll put it like this. So I've only ever been in 2 serious long-term relationships.
Yeah.
And the first one, after the breakup, it introduced me to drug use.
Mm,
I was starting to experiment with hard drugs.
mm.
I didn't know what I was leading myself into at all,
Okay.
whatsoever. And before I acknowledged, I was addicted. I
Mm,
was using quite regularly. I would have probably used every day, every single minute, if I could have got away with it.
yeah.
And it about a lot of trauma, really. I was with her for 7 years, and she was my first love, and I was in denial, for a long time. Anyhow, I didn't know my place in the world, and I was always carrying with me a lot of insecurities, a lot of I didn't know at the time, really, but actually I self-loathed myself because I hated the way I was in social circumstances, and I hated the way that I didn't defend myself, and I wouldn't speak up. I wouldn't, and I just felt really awkward around women. I especially felt really uncomfortable around guys,
Okay.
and so I'll go into that in a minute as to why.
Yeah.
But then, with I had a child with her, and that was very. I was going through a lot of devastation, especially when I broke up with her. I'd lost everything. I lost my job. I was back at my parents, and so on and so forth. I was just proper lost. I was just lost. I had no money, and then before you know, I was starting to lose my friends. And at the particular time as well, then I found out on top of everything that my best mate at the time was making advancements on my kid's mother for about 2 years. And for me, on top of everything that was going on, I was like, what? Because then I would question her. I was like, how come you didn't say anything? We used to go around his.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, I didn't want to, he was your best friend, I didn't want to come in between you both. And I was like, yeah, but you're supposed to be my best friend as well. And you like didn't. So I was just going through that whole in a like complete and utter devastation and depression. And so came along with all the drug use and this and the other. It just spiraled out of control, absolutely spiraled out of control, to a point where I just created a lot of more shame for myself, because I would start to experiment with myself, under these induced states and this and the other. And so I was already feeling uncomfortable, and it just made me feel more uncomfortable. So anyhow, naturally, me being insecure, I just, the world was my mirror. Everything I was feeling inside was just a complete projection of the outside world. And so I would attract like-minded people, and that was my second relationship. She's an absolutely lovely lady, and so on and so forth. But I was with her for a while. That came to a breakup. Now, when it came to that breakup, it was really disheartening for me, because there was no communication after that. I had a child with her as well, so I already had 2 children, and her knowing as well my past, so far as how I even got involved into drugs, which mainly was because I had a son with my first girlfriend. He was used as a means to kind of like get back at me, so sometimes, most weeks and months, I wouldn't see my son. So that's how we kind of spiraled out of control. It was a means for me to just escape my reality, and help numb my feelings and thought process. So second relationship this time round, like, obviously that hurt me a lot, that she knew my history, and like, how could you do this to me? Because then my daughter, the same thing, the mother was just trying to keep herself safe away from me, because I was toxic. My state of mind was toxic. The way I addressed situations was toxic. The way I conducted myself was toxic. My habituals.
Angry, violent.
No, angry, and that might come across as violence, but it's just, I was in turmoil, and I'll be honest with you, like, one of my I've always had this ability to just keep the arguments going, and I would shout through the rooftops, but my biggest wound is not being seen, heard, and felt. So not having a safe space, a safe environment to be able to communicate, and ridiculed for having frustration, being ridiculed to even display anger when they'll, so, after obviously the daughter as well I was kind of having that with my daughter. It was really, really hard for me, I was by myself, and obviously I still had my drug problems. And the height of, my suicide, I was actually starting to fantasize. It used to scare me how I would think about it. I'd wonder how I would even go about it. If I was courageous enough, I probably would have, but I just didn't have the balls, and I was constantly thinking about my children as well and how it would leave my parents as well,
Would you think it was like their suicide idealization? Do you think that was because of the drugs, or do you think that was a combination of like your headspace, your mindset, your situation, and then like the drugs on top of that?
Didn't help, of course. Yeah. Just because it's horrible, I mean, serotonin, the dopamine depletion, and you're just spiraling more into depression, and feeling awful about yourself, and then further loathing yourself because you look horrible, you're just pale and you lose weight and what have you. I mean, at the time as well, I was doing steroids and
it's a mad vicious cycle, this self-loathing business. It was, I completely relate and understand, because I was the same, like through, not when I was so much as a kid, but as I got a bit older, I really did, like in my early teens. And then it's like that pressure to look a certain way, to be a certain way. But I didn't want to get bigger. I wanted to get smaller. So I took amphetamines and weight loss pills, so to get skinny.
Which again isn't good for your inner chemistry, really. And
no, God, not at all.
Yeah,
not at all. So when you at this suicidal state, then you said you're thinking about your kids, you're thinking about, you were thinking about, you wanted to commit suicide, but you were actually then thinking about the people that you left behind. So what stopped you from attempting to commit suicide?
I think having a friend, I think this helped, to be honest with you. I had a friend a while back who died.
Okay.
And his brother committed suicide. I think that helped. I think having felt into all of that and seeing, understanding the devastation that the brother went through. At the time, he was getting bullied a lot as well, from what I understand, from what I recollect and what have you. You couldn't take it anymore. And I always imagined what it must have been like for the parents, and I mean, luckily for me, it was the easy option, really. I didn't have the guts neither. I mean, one thing I kept thinking about was a kitchen knife, wondering if just doing that would just be the easiest thing. And it was horrible to kind of feel into. Look, I'll say this. I don't know where I would be in my heart, in my mind, in my life at the minute, if it weren't for the fact I was initiated into spirituality. Spirituality saved me. And in spirituality in itself then was a initiation into personal development. I wouldn't have had in a million years thought I'd be writing a book. Antonio wrote a book. It's I'm still dealing with cognitive dissonance. It's there's still moments where I'm like, huh? You wrote a book?
Still can't believe you've actually done it.
Yeah, well, I mean, even that, there was so many times I was so close to burning the book altogether. There's a chapter in chapter 17. God knows chapter 17 was the hardest. I mean, chapter 3 was really hard, chapter 5, and then chapter 7, and 8, and 9. Then chapter 3.
All of it then.
Wow. Yeah. And then chapter 13, and then something happened, which formed into chapter 17, and it was really interesting because it was that night I found God. You would have to read the whole book. It's fascinating, but that's the night I found God.
Did you send
That's
it?
what to you?
Did you send it?
I did, yeah.
You did? Oh, I haven't got it yet.
You
Oh,
did.
I'll let you.
Oh, you asked me to send you. Okay, sorry, I haven't sent it yet. No, I've been. Yeah, I'll send it ASAP. But I sent you the digital.
Okay, right. I'll have a look then.
Yeah, it's fascinating. The reviews that's coming through is just, I mean, hard to digest. I think because they're just such profound reviews. But but anyhow, look. Cut a story short. This is my gift to the world. This comes from my biggest challenge all my life, which is we, for whatever reason, don't address the elephant in the middle of the room. We kick the dirt under the carpet. And we are unable to be authentic. We are unable to just be real and honest, not just with the world, but ourselves. You know, so this was a conscious frame of work that I created to literally just rub it in everyone's face. Like, what is your excuse? What's your excuse? And that's literally it.
Okay. So that's quite a harsh lesson for some people to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's I identify to that completely because I use that in my coaching. I'm a no bullshit coach. I don't beat around the bush. And it's like, but some people are unaware or there's actually help out there. So you can make a million excuses not to make a change. But once you have that awareness that you can make a change and you still make loads of excuses, then it's absolutely on you just that you're staying where you are, you know? You get that?
Yeah, I get that as well, but there's so much humility as well, you know. Look, my spiritual awakening was induced by psychedelics. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you and highlighting so far as with what I just mentioned, so far as feeling like I was under a spell, I had a rebirth, if you will, and this awareness that, fuck me, I'm alive. Excuse my swearing. I'm alive. And all of a sudden, it just dawned on me that I had a victim mentality. I was ungrateful. That I just had this like I'm some sort of I had this mentality like I was some sort of mistake. Like like life was happening to me rather than for me. You know, that I was just a waste of space. I was just you know, I was just I had no purpose. And I was certainly an accumulation, and my identity was everything that I've done so far. And so I had enough evidence to point that I was a loser. And so you just kind of carry yourself differently, you know. You just live day by day on survival mode. It's a tricky one, really. Again, part of this project as well was just with again humility of wanting to be an example to others, really, to just have someone to just know that I'm here, just to bring the awareness that I'm here, whatever you want to talk about, like I care. That I'm like just using my story by an example of talking about so many sensitive subjects to give you the opportunity as well to open up without feeling ridicule, judgment, or whatnot, to feel safe. It's safe. It's all right to be you. It's all right. You're okay. Nothing's wrong with you. You just need a, you know, we all, like Rumi said, we all just leading one another home. And
Absolutely.
I genuinely believe we're just one big human family, you know, and we just need to remember that, you know, at the core, all there is love, you know. We're just an experience within an experiencing itself, all for the love of it. And we need to remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's powerful stuff. Spirituality is powerful stuff. It's, I swear by it. It's through all my life, my teachings, everything has carries their spirituality with it. Because for me, it's like it's a way of being, like rather than something that you identify to or being spiritual. It's like it's a way of being, isn't it? You rather than, yeah, and like the awakening is like it can be messy. Spiritual awakening isn't for the faint-hearted. But it's absolutely beautiful. And it, like one of the hardest things to go through is shedding the layers of guilt and shame, and then actually coming home to yourself. But like that process is I always refer to it as like the butterfly effect, because like
Thanks, yeah.
by you're this little caterpillar walking along and you're like minding your own business, and then bam, you turn to mush. You literally, and you're in this cocoon and you're a complete mush. And then you start to go through this transformational phase, and you're this thing like this, and then you wings, and then you're like this beautiful butterfly flying free. And it's like you see that transformation in people, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And just to witness that in people as well, as then going through it myself many a times. So don't believe we just have one awakening. We
Mm.
have many layers of awakening to do.
Yeah, I bet.
Um, I mean, mine started when I was really young. I was really intuitive as a kid. So like it's kind of inbuilt in me. I would see spirits and talk spirits and like be very intuitive. I'd just know things. Or I could tell, like I could feel people's emotions
Mm.
and everything. So that's like empathetic, and it's called an empath, intuitive empath. But then like I had many dark nights of the soul. Eckhart Tolle talks about that like loads, is dark night of the soul. And that's part of the like awakening process, isn't it? That you, in those times of that darkness, you, instead of like trying to run away from it or get out of it, you like sit with it,
Mm.
sit in that darkness for a little while, and like begin to understand yourself. And then slowly but surely the darkness passes, and you can go back to the light. You can return to love, return to those, the feelings of appreciation, gratitude,
Yeah.
um, for where you've been. But yeah, it's always like a never-ending process, isn't it? Of like shedding layers and dancing, really, isn't it? Like dancing with the emotions. It's like letting them flow. None of like good or bad. They're just like is what it is. It's
Yeah.
like that's kind of sort of a realization that I've come to. It's like just let things be what they are, leave people where they are, and just do you. And like, yeah, focus on your own energy and love and being kind and compassionate with
Mm.
yourself and others. And like it's a more peaceful way of living, I believe, spirituality.
Well, I read somewhere that our job here is to forgive and learn to love.
Yeah.
Really.
Have you forgiven yourself now?
I have. I've
Good.
made love peace with myself, yeah, and
Yeah.
with others. And I'm starting to. If one thing I've learned now is forgive and forgive quickly, you
Mm.
know, and I mean, it's interesting with the way you've just shared. And my favorite word at the minute is processing. I'm constantly processing.
Okay.
I'm constantly just growing and having to give opportunities to process, not not react and try
Mm.
to engage and sometimes offer yourself compassion because it's an interesting one. For example, I'm on this path of I wrote a book called The Lockdown on Self-Love, and even online, sometimes I felt like I've got to make out like I've got it all figured out, but that's come with now coming to understand that no,
Mhm.
I heard this interesting quote by Ram Dass.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm Ram Dass. And like people just think that, at least this was a quote when he was alive, all right, bless his soul. But he was like, I'm Ram Dass, and everyone's always everyone's expecting that I've got it together and I'm nice all the time and loving. But no, like I've had to offer myself compassion to understand I'm human. There's going to be times I'm agitated. There's going to be times that I'm sad. There's going to be times that I'm going to feel like I'm not good enough, but I've got to be all right with that, because we have ups and downs, and you just got to allow yourself to just be human at the same time, and know that your shit stinks too.
It's such a good point to make, because like in the online space, I've been a therapist for many, many years and a coach. So in that space, there is some sort of like responsibility. Well, this is what I think, that you should have it, should be a certain way, and you should have it all together. This was an old belief. I'll just add that in there now. And you need to dress a certain way, you need to act a certain way. Obviously you need to have professionalism, like within your business, like, when it matters. But I used to think that I had to show up in certain clothes, be a certain way, and if I was actually completely and utterly my true self, that people wouldn't want to work with me or think I was unprofessional.
Yeah.
But the truth is that is the complete opposite. That you're taught by these. I'm not one of these corporate business gurus. Nah, and I don't want to be. I swear a lot. I am probably quite inappropriate in some of my things I say, but that's me. And and if you don't like that sort of thing, then I'm definitely not the coach for you. But if you want a no bullshit approach and you want to have fun whilst you're healing, then I probably will be a good fit for you in coaching. But don't you think though, as soon as you kind of let your true self be known. So I never really wanted to admit that I was having a bad day or I'd made mistakes, or I was having a skint month or something like that. It's like all these things, like in your head, they're mostly in your head, and you think that everyone's going to judge you for those things, but you're really just judging yourself. Once you kind of just let go of that and be honest with yourself and others, then that's freeing, isn't it? And then what happens is then you attract people that are supposed to be aligned with working with you, and the collaborations come in. People say, oh my God, I want you to speak for me. So I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's do it. But when you're hiding behind mask, then that's when you get those blockages, isn't it? And if people, you can see it, because energy doesn't lie. And it's like what you'll be doing energetically is, by not being yourself and showing up authentically as yourself, you're actually creating blockages, like for people working with you and wanting to hire you and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely show up as yourself, warts and all. And I was cracking up at your videos. Oh my God, I was dying.
And I'm so grateful I found them. They're from 2013. So I talk about it in chapter 7, I believe it is, where once upon a time,
Laughing at you. They were just so funny, comical. Please, people, go to Antonio's personal Facebook profile and have a look at his videos. And I love you for sharing that. I love you for sharing that. Would you mind me just saying, like, when we spoke first, was it last year? Or was it 2000? I mean, 2020.
Lockdown was still going on, right?
We spoke in lockdown, yeah.
Yeah,
We first started talking in lockdown.
Yeah.
But, well, on our first video anyway, I know that when we both just before we both jumped on that live for YouTube, we'd both had a really shit day. Yeah, I was like that. And
And I
you
was so sad.
you had arguments with your
Yeah.
family, I think, or something.
Mm,
You were in a really shitty place, weren't you?
yeah.
Emotionally, and something was going on for me as well. I can't quite recall what it was, but something probably to do with relationships. Kids or relationships, usually the things that are the bane of my life. But anyway, we're both in like a completely different headspace then, weren't we? And I've loved watching your journey from them and seeing that transformation when I first connected with you on Facebook. I don't even know how, but the universe does wonders for just connecting people. I don't even know how we became friends on Facebook, but we did. And then we had a phone call, didn't we? And then I said, like, come on, let's do this. Let's chat. But the transformation from then to now is like beautiful to watch you online, and I'm really proud of you, like for being so vulnerable and writing your book. And congratulations for doing the work and honoring yourself.
Thank you.
Mm.
Yeah, so much beauty. Like I will say this, I want to share this with everyone. When I started to identify that the most important relationship there will ever be in is the one with yourself, that the most important project you will ever work on is yourself, my world is completely changed, to establish, well, I mean, first of all, I came to identify that the relationship I had with myself was very fragile. So I had to do the work, come to understand how I was treating myself, how I was conducting myself, and having this acute sensitivity towards how my behavior was contributing towards others. So ever since, the relationships with the kids' mothers has improved so much. We can crack a laugh with one another. I can pick up the video, and I've put enough work that they now feel safe, supported, and it feels good. It feels good to not. I put it this way. I used to feel like I was just existing. And what's changed, as well, is just saying yes to life. I used to feel like no one cared about me, but I stopped neglecting myself.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been beautiful. I wake up first thing in the morning, I meditate, I read my document, my affirmations. Sometimes I light up a little candle.
Yeah. Oh, sound's gone. You've muted.
Mic check 1 2.
Yep.
Man, good. Yeah, it's so honestly, I would really recommend. This isn't something I think guys naturally do, right? But just light up a candle and sit with yourself. Have a romantic time with yourself. And this is what I love about my journey. I mean, my biggest epiphany was this. I mean, I'm single, and I was heartbroken for a while, but there was a big shift in my awareness as soon as I started to implement this ideology. Really, so far as we're looking for everything external from us, and sometimes even like I'd love to find someone, but at the meantime, like I was lost. So finding myself and then treating myself how I would want someone else to treat me, game changer. Game changer. I do this now. I've been doing this for 3 months, right? Ever since I came, I believe it's chapter. I write it in chapter. I can't remember what chapter, but it's in the epilogue. When I finished my epilogue, I came up. I had this realization. So far as no one wakes up in the morning and says to themselves, "I'm going to have a bad day. How can I make today the worst ever?" But, no one wakes up in the morning either. Kisses our hand. Mwah! It says, "Hello, beautiful. Have the best day ever, you absolute legend." And I do that. I do that with myself. So, and that's a powerful statement already. First thing in the morning to just, call yourself beautiful. And that grew from me just every time I used to catch myself. I used to call myself ugly. I was really mean to myself. And, And and to have a powerful statement so far as have an absolute amazing day, you absolute legend, is nice. It's nice to self-validate, self-acknowledge, and praise.
Yeah, exactly. So did that feel uncomfortable at first when you first
Yes, it
started?
did.
It's
Yes, it
horrible,
did,
isn't it?
yeah, yes, it did. It felt goofy as hell. It felt really strange. I mean, it still sometimes does. I literally wake up first thing as soon as I'm like, mwah.
My kids think I'm mad. They do. Because I
Well, what you
dance
do?
around the house going, you're a badass bitch and you're going to smash the day and stuff like that.
Good on you. Yeah, you're in touch with your inner child. High five.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, mirror work is like, I do stuff in the mirror as well.
Okay.
It's like,
Oh.
so when I was going through like, because I went through a bad time of like hating my body, like having 4 children, and we're bombarded on social media by these perfect bodies, these airbrush bodies with 0 stretch marks and like perfectly pert fake tits, whatever. And it's like, and it's kind of like, where does normal bodies fit into this? Where do normal bodies
Is
fit into gym wear? Gym wear is advertised. Obviously, it's for fitness, right? So, but why aren't normal bodies being used to advertise, clothes, fitness clothes, workout clothes, or products? It is changing. It is changing, but but at the time when I was going through this, it wasn't. And everything was very much photoshopped. And you would never see a stretch mark on social media back then. But anyway, so it was like I felt like my body shouldn't look like that.
oh, bless you.
Be perfect, yeah, and stuff like that. But anyway, that was old news and old me. But that transition was uncomfortable because it was like, oh God, well, I can't wear that top because you can see part of my belly and then you can see a stretch mark. So it's like I wouldn't ever wear like belly tops or anything like that. But then that uncomfortable transition of going out in, a belly top, and yeah, that first time just feels really uncomfortable. And it's like when you do that mirror work, it's like you feel like, oh my God, what am I doing? Talking to myself naked in the mirror, like just like accepting like every single part of yourself.
Yes.
But it's powerful stuff,
Yeah.
powerful stuff.
Yeah.
But you don't just wake up one day and decide that you love yourself. It's a process, isn't it?
It's the process. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you have to kind of go through that. Oh, do I really have to do this? And then it's like, okay, well, look at all the things that my body's done. It's
Yeah.
carried 4 safe children, healthy children.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Like, I'm agile. I've got legs. I can walk. I can run. I can dance. I
Yeah.
can, I can hug people. I can hug myself. I can hug myself.
Oh.
It's like all these things that your body can do for you. That's
Yeah.
like learning that appreciation
Yeah.
for your body. And
Yeah.
then that appreciation turns into like, and then you build on that like, and it turns
Yeah.
into to love.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
A bit of tangent there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I suppose this is a good way to just say, look, just because you start on this healing journey doesn't mean things get fixed right away. It is a process. I mean, look, even with me, with the whole book, right? I had episodes where I rebounded loads of times, throughout the book experience. I had one experience where I was supposed to plan with another woman to go out. And I ended up jeopardizing myself and ended up thinking I could just have one cheeky one. But that just turned into having everything. And then basically I ended up out in the streets, in the woods, off my nut.
Right.
And I thought to myself, you've ruined everything, Like
Okay.
you can't publish now because you might have been video recorded and what have you. You know, you're going to be a laughing stock. And so that's what I mean so far as when it comes to then self-love and self-appreciation, self-acceptance and self-forgiveness. You know,
Yeah.
it takes one one best what's best for you. You know, and that comes as well with letting go with a lot of the narratives that you know aren't really yours.
But,
It,
I've really loved talking to you.
so,
And one thing that I will say, watchers and listeners, if you are having suicidal thoughts, um, please go and speak to somebody, a health professional that can help you. I work with suicide prevention as well, so pick up the phone or send me a message, and I can talk you through it. And there is a big difference between suicidal thoughts and idealization than actually wanting to die. So, we can work through stuff like that. And the Samaritans are really good as well. And they're open 24 hours a day. So if it's out of my office hours, pick up the phone to the Samaritans, and they're really helpful. I've used them myself.
yeah, I have as well.
Yeah, and that for me, they've been the most helpful.
Yeah,
Of all, of all the services I've tried.
yeah.
So yeah, and on that note, I'm thankful that you're here, and thank you for coming onto the podcast and sharing your story. And yeah, I'll put in the links as well where people can buy your book if they wanted to download the Kindle or the paperback version.
Thank
So
you.
yes, thank you so much for coming
Thank you
on.
a lot. Well, have a fabulous day. Have a fabulous weekend. And I'll chat to you soon.
Yes, thank you. And I will see you all next week for another episode of Tat Inner Voice Podcast. That was another episode of That Inner Voice. Do join me next time on the next episode. Bye for now.